Hi, everybody, and welcome along to our latest edition of the GAA Museum Book Club. I haven't been in a while, but we had to kind of come out of retirement for this amazing book by John Kelly, who is joining me today. Thanks so much for joining us, John.
Thanks, Julianne. You're very welcome. Glad to be here.
So the book is, I have it here in front of me. It's hard to see. It's called The GAA Covered, and the subtitle is The History of the GAA in Match Programs. I suppose, John, it's a big book. It's a kind of a gift book and a coffee table book in many ways, but a lot of
Mm.
reading in it too, not just images. I suppose the text and image complement each other a lot. I'm going to ask you the very obvious question first, which I'm sure everyone that I've been talking to about the book has asked you is. Why you and why now to write this book?
Yeah, good question, Julianne. I suppose I had been collecting programs for a long number of years since I was a child, really back in the 70s. And I suppose about 10 or 15 years ago, the amount of programs that I had accumulated myself at home, I started to look at them and decide what to do with them. So I decided to take the collection a step further and actually work my way back through the years to build a proper collection.
Wow.
So I've been, as I say, a program collector for many years, but and we have a great community, a great group of collectors, and a certain amount of discussion would go on amongst us as to what programs exist or what programs were ever printed. And so I thought to myself, what would a complete collection of All Ireland final programs look like if one could be compiled?
Uh-huh.
So that was kind of the inspiration for the book, and there was another wonderful program book came out about Liverpool Football Club
Oh,
a couple of years ago, and the guy Andy Marsden, who collects Liverpool programs, had put together a lovely collection of program covers from the 1940s, from the World War II, basically.
wow.
So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be lovely if somebody did a GAA version of that book? And the next thing I did was, sure, like, you could do it yourself, maybe. So I just started at it one day, and got back to about 1970, and then the fun began trying to find the rest of them. So that's kind
Yeah.
of that's how the book took off, really.
Well, because a lot of people would have big collections, but not everybody would, I suppose, have the wherewithal to and the
Yeah.
dedication to go back and do that. So you obviously have a background in history and in writing as well.
Yeah, exactly. I A couple of years ago, I did an MA in regional history here in Carlow,
Mm.
and my thesis was on the history of the GAA in Carlow and Kilkenny, and obviously then with the GAA background as well, the two of them just kind of seemed to merge, and the program collected. It all came together in a perfect storm, if you want. So. As I said, that's my background. I had been doing a little bit of writing for the local history society, the Carlow Historical Society here, and so this was just the next step to try and get a book out.
Amazing, and with a full-time job as well, may I add. So it's no mean feat. Were you happy with the final edition when you saw it in your hand and how well it looked? Because it's
Yeah,
one that's going to definitely stand the test of time. Like you can see it,
yeah.
being in houses for a long time. You must have been thrilled.
Yeah, well, this is it, Juliana. I really was delighted to see the finished product on it, because, what I had done was I had compiled about 850 images of the programs and put that together with about 25,000 words. And I handed them over to Gill Books, and I said, lads, make the best of this. And their design team did a wonderful job putting the book
Yeah.
together, because it wasn't an easy task. But they did a fantastic job. Great credit to the team there for the way they put the book together, and it really came out a lovely book in the end. So hopefully people will enjoy it. And as you said early on, it's kind of a coffee table book. You don't have to
You
start at the
can dip in and
beginning.
out.
You
Yeah.
can dip in and out. A lot of people start at the year they were born, or a particular All Ireland final that they were at. They just go to that year straight away, and then you can work either backwards or forwards from there. So it's a good book like that for people that don't read a lot. You can just look at the images, and the amount of words that go with each year is roughly about 120 to 150.
Yeah.
So there's you don't have to read a lot to read it, but there is some history to go with each section.
Yeah, I went straight to the 90s myself for when Offaly were successful. We had a period when I was in secondary school, we were in Croke Park nearly every weekend. It was
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
So yeah, I remember those bigger size match programs, the
that's
Guinness
right.
Solar, those ones. Yeah, I
Yeah,
still have
that's
them. So
right.
I went straight to them
Yeah.
to have a look. Talk to me then, I suppose, about the earliest programs and how hard it was to find them and find out information about them. I know they go 1914, I think, is the first one in the book.
1913, yeah,
1913.
1913. I suppose just to give it a kind of a context, Julianne, if you were to start collecting programs today, you would very easily get back to 1970, collect the programs back to
Okay.
1970. It's quite straightforward and easy to do. Back to about 1945, then a little bit more difficult, and it gets a little bit more expensive to do it. And then anything pre 1945 back as far as you go is very difficult to find, and it gets very expensive. So we find the beginning is 1913, and that was the year that the GAA purchased Croke Park. And so I think that the programs were brought out. The All Ireland finals that year were played in November and December, very late in the year,
Mm.
just as the GAA had completed the purchase of Croke Park. And I'd say that that's the reason why the programs were brought out for that year. So they are very difficult to find.
There probably
Uh,
was, I presume, less of them printed at the time, was there?
Yeah, it's again, it's kind of hard to
Hard to
know.
know.
Like, I mean, the attendances would have been, I suppose you're talking roughly 25,000, 30,000. And I was just doing a bit of research on it there the other day that in 1913, the Great Strike and Lockout caused the GA would normally have erected extra seating and
Of
standing in
course.
Croke Park for the All Ireland finals, but they weren't able to do it that year, so there were reduced attendances in 1913 actually. And so there probably would have been, and again, at the time, the programs, they weren't designed to be kept. Do you know what I mean? They were
Yes,
like
I saw
newspapers.
that.
They were designed to be thrown away at the end of the match. So that's why very few of them survive really from then. And very small documents, actually, the early ones, they were designed to fit inside the inside pocket of a man's overcoat was where the programs. So they're not like the big A4 ones that you
Yes.
described from the 90s. They're kind of the opposite of that, actually. But that's how they kind of started from 1913 into 1914, 1915, and then they disappear in 1916 for obvious reasons as the country entered a kind of a volatile period for that decade coming up from 1916. So the programs disappear and reappear then in 1926. Kind of. So that's the kind of the earliest versions of the All Ireland final programs anyway.
And how did this evolve then? I suppose it was obviously technology and different trends in society, but how did they become, I suppose, more than just a team sheet, really? People started to write in them. We all know the man sitting beside us that's writing every score and who took it. And they kind of became a working document, you describe it in the book. Did that change over time? Was it a social thing, more so than
Yeah.
it wasn't intended that way, I suppose?
Yeah, yeah, you can trace the evolution of it through the 1930s. The very earliest ones were just kind of folded over team sheets,
Hmm.
and then they began, maybe to add in an extra page, might put in an advert. As you say, the technology evolved then into the 40s. In the 40s, they put a color cover. Now it's very basic color, kind of green and orange, green and red
Yes.
type colors, and they added black and white photographs onto the interior. Into the 1960s, then a guy called Brendan McLua, a clergyman who was appointed to a clerical position up in Croke Park, he was very interested in the program. So from the 1960s, they took on a much more colourful effect on the front cover and more volume in the programs, more articles to kind of put in the lyrics of the national anthem and
Right.
other songs to do with the counties, and more photographs, pen pictures of the players, things like that. So Brendan McLua was a huge influence in the 1960s. That was the kind of, for the All Ireland final programs, that was kind of the advent of what we call the souvenir program. As I said, prior to that, they were ephemeral. They were designed to be, not kept really. But and then that kind of filtered down into the provinces then in the early 1970s with Paddy Flanagan in Leinster and Jack Mahan over in Connacht. They were the guys that, Jack Mahan in particular, had a huge impact on the programmes in Connacht, the former Galway footballer. He was PR in Connacht then for a number of years, and the programs then from the mid 1970s took on the souvenir program. You move into the 80s, then the programs become full color documents, full color pictures, and wonderful kind of statistics, articles, lots of other content within the programs that we're accustomed to today. So that's I suppose that's the evolution of it up until 2019. Then 2019 we had the biggest program ever for the All Ireland final.
In
I think
terms
it
of
was.
number of pages.
In terms of number of
Yeah.
pages, yeah, there was 120 pages,
Wow.
and the cost went up to €7 at that stage. It's €8 nowadays, but they've constantly evolved along with, I suppose, photographic technology, printing technology, in terms of articles, statistics, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
has
stats.
increased.
I suppose we have so many stats now, which we wouldn't have had before.
Yeah,
I know for my own, for younger kids love stats, so they go straight to the stats
yeah,
pages.
yeah, yeah,
So it's a
yeah.
nice thing.
Yeah, a lot of them, along with the stats, they would have the scoreboard for the year, so you could
Yes.
trace back the county's trek to the All Ireland final or whatever. Like, so it makes for. Generally, for myself, I will flick through the teams, and then I will, when I get home, I'll start reading through the program. Then for the following week or the following 2 weeks, and that's the way I kind of watch the match, look at the players, and then afterwards I'll go back and go through the stats and the stuff.
It was funny. I was listening to a podcast this week about lists and how people love lists. And if you put things into lists, books that have lists, people love them, like Guinness Book of Records, those kind of things. And I was thinking about that in relation to match programs. Like we love lists of top players, top scorers, longest caps, all of that. So yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
yeah, it's similar, and particularly kids like things like that. It puts it into simple form. Talk to
yeah.
me then about, I suppose, the social side of it. Obviously, you always had to pay something for the match programs, and then they probably started to generate income in a different way by advertising. When did that start?
Yeah, I suppose the advertising, a huge change in the advertising, Julian, was when the GA in the 1990s, like that was, those programs you referred to at the beginning. Corporate advertising
Yes.
came very much into being, and as you say, you'll see the Guinness and Bank of Ireland on those. They were the first two corporate sponsors, really. And I suppose the GA began to spot an opening there for getting the products out that they were, the sponsor partners for the GA. They were putting on the programs, because they realised, as well as putting them around the edges of the stadium, by putting them on the program, the people were reading the programs as well.
Yeah.
Now there had been advertisements prior to that, some very funny ones actually. Well, not, I won't say funny ones, but obviously, times have changed, and there's one particularly funny one where it's advertising sweeping brushes.
I saw that
Obviously,
in the book.
yeah, obviously aimed at women, which is, of its time, let's say.
Good that
And
women were going to matches and reading books, so that are
yeah,
reading the match
yeah,
programs, that they did consider that, which is
yeah,
in itself
possibly.
probably unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And in the 1914 program, I noticed one of the 1914 programs that they had advertised uniforms for volunteers, which
Okay.
very interesting. Again, speaks to the time and the what was going on in the country at the time. So the advertisements have formed a huge part of it, and I'd say definitely from the 1990s on, the corporate sponsorship came more into play with the match programs for the All Ireland finals, especially.
And the design then, and the font. I know there's font nerds, like people love fonts and typefaces and
Mm.
typography. I know you mentioned a bit about the Irish font and how that changed over time.
Yeah.
Is there a specific font that's still used, or has it changed, or have they tried different things?
Yeah, no, I would say the Cló Gaelach, which was the font, that's the name given to the font, which was
Mm,
in use in the early years. And I suppose the GAA introduced that in keeping with its mission of promoting Irish language, Irish culture, and they went to that font, and the old Irish orthography of spelling the names of the counties differently to the way we
yes.
spell them now. In 1958, then they had the standardization of the Irish language, bringing it more into line with the English alphabet, and the spellings changed at that stage. Now, in recent years, DBA, who print the All Ireland final programs, they have reintroduced the old Cló Gaelach on the cover, which is a beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I really love it. It gives a
Very unique
sense.
to the GA as well.
Yeah, and it speaks back to the earlier years of the programs as well, and it gives it a very Irish or Gaelic feel to the
Yeah.
programs, which is lovely.
Yeah, they're really nice. Yeah, I was looking back and I hadn't really noticed the change. We actually sell the program covers here through our online shop, so you can pick a
Yes,
year,
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
nearly a design on their own. They're a nice print now. Is there
yes,
any
yeah.
particular era of designs that you liked or you've a fondness for?
Yeah, I've a couple, I suppose. I particularly I in the 40s when they introduced the color programs with Michael Cusick on the front of
Yes,
them.
I marked him here, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there might be one on the cover actually. There's one on the cover of the book there.
Yes, the
Just
red one
yeah,
there.
it's
Yeah.
the red one. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, you can see that Michael Cusick.
Mm.
That's I think that's 1946 program, and
Yeah, lovely.
that's one of them. The other one the other ones I really love are the 1960s, the mid 1960s programs. I don't think there's any on the cover unless they're on the back of it. No, but if you go to say 1965 in the book, see if I can hold one up here for you. But these are the ones that Brendan McLuha would have
Right. Yes.
introduced, and they're beautiful ones. Really, the rich colors on the front of them, and I'm gonna hold up this one here. This is the 1966 football final. I don't know
Yes, they're
if you can
lovely.
see it, if you
Yes.
can see it there,
Yeah,
and
lovely.
they're really beautiful programs. 65, 66, 67. They're really nice programs, and I love the design in them. But in 20, as I go back to 2019 again, they reintroduced the original artwork done by George Fagan that was on the cover of the 1913,
I
14,
was going to
15.
ask you, did we know the
Yeah,
artist? Yeah,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, George Fagan, actually, Siobhan Doyle that did 100 items of the GAA, she did a lot of research on that, and George Fagan was the artist, and they reintroduced those for the 2019 All-Ireland finals, which was a lovely, again, bringing it all back, and so of modern programs, I really like those ones, yeah.
And there's one I can't get my head around at all. I'm going to show it to you now. It's kind of mad. Can you see? I don't know if it's that one.
Yeah.
What
I
is
think,
that?
in
It's
fairness,
1991.
yeah, in 1991, it's kind of like it's kind of psychedelic, isn't it? It's kind
Yeah.
of the way they've organized the artwork on it. In fairness to DBA, they've tried different things with the covers, and
Really have.
that was certainly an unusual one. I see it on the cover of the book here as well. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'd be a fan of that one in particular. But at least there was a willingness
It's of the
to give.
time. It's kind of 90s rave culture or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
possibly, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but they are, as I said, they're a real testament to, I suppose, the history of the GA. There's loads of books about the history of the GA, but this is one we all have in our houses. Where do you keep all of your match programs in your house?
Yeah, no, this is I hope my wife isn't listening, but
Bone of contention.
I have a dedicated room at the back of the house, Julianne, where I eventually it reached a stage of critical mass where I had to find something to, so I shelved it out, and so I have a system, obviously, because at this stage I have so many of them. If I didn't put them in some sort of order, I wouldn't know where anything is. So I organize them by competition and then put them in chronological order according to the competition. So I'll have
Wow.
my Ulster finals, Connacht finals, Leinster finals, Munster finals, then All Ireland finals, and then obviously I'm from Carlow, so I'll have my Carlow County finals and other matches that I collect. So you'll find that the serious collectors have a system in place for putting them in, and a lot of the collectors that I was around to as well would obviously have display folders for the older ones, because obviously they will get damaged with light and
Just the
heat and
air.
moisture,
Yeah.
exactly, if you don't look after them. So especially as they get a bit older, guys are starting to take a little bit more care of them and realize that they're precious and need to be looked after.
And what is the most valuable one in existence?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask, because it's only in the last, I think within the last 4 to 5 weeks, it was sold at auction.
Oh,
It's one at the 1913 hurling final. I think it went for God, what was it, €11,000?
wow.
I think it was €11,000 anyway. Could maybe 13,000. Anyway, it's €11,000. I think is roughly what it was. Went for that was a couple of weeks ago, and as I say, the 1930s, 1920s, they can become very expensive. Some into the 40s as well, depending on rarity. You know, certain programs, depending on the weather, would have had a huge effect.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because lads
It
would
would have
have
got
used them as,
destroyed. Yeah.
yeah, lads would, and some very early ones, the paper quality was very flimsy, sort of
Yeah.
a thin sort of paper, nearly like tissue paper, some of them, and they would have got damaged, rain damage, and things like this. And then again, replays are difficult enough to find as well, because you'd have a smaller attendance at a replay, and lads kind of tended to think, well, I bought the program for the first
Yeah,
day.
not find
I
another
know
one.
what, yeah, I'm not buying another
Yeah.
one, and I know what the teams are. So replays are notoriously difficult to get. But the anything pre 1945 really is it can be quite expensive and difficult to get. But auction houses bring them up, maybe a couple of times a year. You'll always find a few of them there, and guys that can get very competitive. Guys are trying to get in and bid for these things, add them to their collections, no, they are quite expensive, quite rare. Some of the early ones.
It's amazing. I said the people who were printing them at the time didn't foresee what would happen. It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
I was reading in your introduction as well about the dummy programs and how that kind of changed the function nearly of a match program. I remember that myself. Remember Claire used to do it against Offaly all the time.
Exactly. And that, it's to a certain extent, Julianne, it influenced the content of the book, because up until the 1990s, the teams were pretty much as what you saw in the program. Whatever was named, the team named was the team that took the field. In 1990s, and you mentioned Clare, they're the obvious egregious example of this, that they put out the dummy teams, and I thought it was very unfair then to be putting the names of guys who played in matches, but they were named in the program but didn't play in the match, and then there was guys listed as subs who actually played in the match. So it wasn't really fair. Now, anyway, the book runs to about 420 pages as it is. So if you were to include the teams, then you probably double or treble that. So it wasn't really feasible. But you're right. The dummy team certainly did have an effect. More than on the book, it obviously had an effect on sales of programs, because if people began to realise that the teams weren't correct, and so what was the point in buying the program if the team didn't match what was going to be playing? So it certainly had an effect on the.
Yeah, I suppose it's again part of the history of the GAA and the change and tactics and how things became more serious, more.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, it does speak to the evolution of the GAA and the way teams were lined out, and as you say, tactics and psychology and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, very interesting. And then I suppose the last question, because I don't want to, I know you're busy, I don't want to be keeping you too long. On your travels around the country, did you go outside Ireland at all, or is there collections abroad or overseas?
No, and to be honest with you, that's the first time I've been asked that, and I don't know is the honest answer, because as you said, the travels took me from Armagh to Kerry, and from Mayo to Wexford, and all points in between. But eventually, at a certain point, I realised I had covered.
You have enough.
I covered what I needed for the book. Certainly, there are at least two programs in the book that were. I think the 2006 Ulster final was played in Boston, and obviously the 1947 All Ireland football final was played in New York. So you have programs there that were printed outside of Ireland that have made it into the book. So there is I suppose, a small international flavour to the book.
Is there many of the Polo Grounds ones still around?
Yeah, it's funny, because there are some stories around the final where the referee, who was Martin O'Neill, who was the Leinster secretary for a long time, he was the referee for the match, and apparently he brought home quite a quantity of them with him. Now they're still, I would consider them still rare enough to see them come up for auction. I got my own copy about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It came up on eBay, and I bought it. And I jumped at it because it's unusual to see it coming up, and they're quite rare. And it's my favorite program.
It is a nice one. Yeah,
it's a lovely program. Yeah, and there's a wonderful smell off my program. It kind of smell, a lovely musty smell that's just evocative of the time. And there's probably it is quite rare, but not the rarest one. I put it like that.
Yeah, and then I suppose all your travels, then you've met a lot of, I'd say, characters. I'd say it's a nice hobby, a nice community to be part of.
Yeah, it's a wonderful community to be part of, Julianne. We have two fairs in the year, one in Thurles and there has been one in Graiguenamanagh that this year we moved it around, held it in Maynooth this year. And then we have, of course, we have our WhatsApp groups, and we're in constant contact. You know, lads are very good for letting you know that, you know, if they're going to a match, they'll get a program and pass it
Yeah,
on,
of course.
and things like that. So there's a great community out there, and we're always looking for new people to join. One of the things we've kind of seen is that our community is by and large middle-aged men, and so we're looking. You know, it's always nice to see a few kids or a few ladies get involved in it, because, you know,
Yeah.
just to. But it's amazing how many people from all walks of life have come to me since the book has come out, like yourself, and said, "Look, I have a few of these at home," and you know, that's where a collection starts. You know, people will
Yeah.
have them from being at the matches and have held on to them, and that was where we all were, and just started adding to it and adding to it until it became a collection, you know.
I feel like now when people get the present of your book over Christmas, I have be uprooting in attics, and
Yeah,
it'll inspire them to
yeah.
resurrect old documents.
Hopefully,
But
hopefully
yeah, they're a
that'll
real
be great.
tangible, it's a
Yeah.
tangible piece of history, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's what I say about it. Is it's a tangible connection to the match. You know, after the memories fade, and after the match is over, and especially the older ones that haven't been recorded on television or anything like that, the program is still a very tangible connection to that day, to
Absolutely.
the names of the players that played, and where it was played, and all the stuff, all the information that's contained on the program. It's still a great connection. You know, a piece of social history, really. You know.
Oh, well, it's a brilliant book. So, and it's doing, I hope it's doing really well for you. It's something that should exist. So it's great that it does exist now. And thank you so much for taking time to chat to us today, especially at this busy time of year for you. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
You're very welcome, Julie. I'm delighted to do it.